My name is Alisa. I'm only 23, but life has already shown me what most people don't see in a lifetime. 5 years ago, I was just a young wife with simple dreams. I lived in a small house with my husband and our little son, Hamza. We didn't have much, but inside those walls, I felt safe. I believed that no matter how hard life got, we would face it together. But life doesn't ask before it changes everything. One morning, my husband left for work like always. He smiled at me, kissed Hamza on the forehead, and walked out the door. I didn't know that would be the last time I would ever see him alive. That same evening, the news came. He was gone. Just like that, my world ended. At 23, I became a widow. And my 3-year-old son stood in front of me, holding my dress, asking the question that broke me completely. "Mama, where is Papa?" I had no answer. At first, people came. The house was full again. But this time with tears instead of laughter. Relatives, neighbors, distant friends, all saying the same thing. "We are here for you." But days passed, then weeks, and one by one, they disappeared. Their words stayed, but they didn't. Soon, silence filled the house. Bills started piling up. The little support money we had vanished within months. Rent was due. Food was running out. And I had never worked a single day outside before. But now, I had no choice. I started working as a maid, cleaning other people's homes, washing their dishes, cooking their meals, while sometimes my own child slept hungry. But hunger wasn't the worst part. The worst part was how people started looking at me. Because when you're a young widow, people don't see your pain. They see your vulnerability. They see your loneliness. They see an opportunity. At first, it was subtle. My landlord would come for rent, but stand a little too close. His eyes didn't look at me with sympathy. They scanned me in a way that made my skin crawl. One day, when I told him I couldn't pay on time, he leaned in and whispered slowly, "There are other ways to pay." My heart froze. I slammed the door shut and held Hamza tightly in my arms. That night, I didn't sleep. For the first time, my own home didn't feel safe anymore. And outside, it wasn't any better. In the houses where I worked, men would stare, watching every movement. One of them once brushed his hand against mine and said with a smile, "You must feel very lonely at night." Lonely? That word didn't feel like sympathy. It felt like a trap. I went home that night, completely broken. My body was tired, but my soul was shattered. Hamza was asleep on the floor, waiting for me. I sat beside him, ran my fingers through his hair, and cried silently. I wanted to scream at the world, "Is this what a widow deserves?" But I stayed quiet because I knew if I spoke, they wouldn't blame them. They would blame me. The hardest betrayal didn't come from strangers. It came from people I once trusted. There was a family friend who started visiting often after my husband's death. At first, he brought groceries, spoke kindly, and acted like a savior. I believed him. I thought maybe someone still cared. But slowly, his words began to change. One night, he looked at me and said quietly, "Alisa, you're still young. You deserve love. I can give you that." My heart stopped. Before I could react, his hand moved toward mine. Something inside me screamed. I pulled back immediately and said firmly, "Please, leave." His face changed instantly. The kindness disappeared, and what remained was something cold and cruel. "Don't act innocent," he said sharply. "Without me, how will you survive?" That night, I locked every door in fear. I held Hamza close, as if the world was trying to take everything from me. And when he asked softly, "Mama, why are you crying?" I had no words. How do you explain to a child that the world outside is not safe for his mother? Days turned into months. My life became a routine of survival. Wake up early, prepare Hamza for school, then rush to clean 3 different houses, return home late, exhausted, barely able to stand. But no matter where I went, the same looks followed me, the same whispers, the same dirty offers. At 23, my beauty became a curse. Men misunderstood my silence. They thought my struggle meant weakness. They thought my loneliness meant permission. So I changed myself. I covered myself more. I avoided eye contact. I spoke less, stayed invisible. But even that wasn't enough. One night, while returning home, a group of young men started following me, laughing, throwing cheap words into the air. I held Hamza's hand tightly and walked faster. My heart was beating so loudly, I thought it would burst. That was the moment I realized the truth. I wasn't just poor. I wasn't just alone. I was unsafe. Hamza was only a child. But he understood more than I wanted him to. Sometimes, he would hold my hand tightly and say, "Mama, don't worry. I will grow up and protect you." Those small words, from such a small boy, became my only strength. Because in a world that saw me as weak, he saw me as his whole world. But this story isn't only about pain, because something else was happening, quietly, slowly. While the world was trying to break me, it was building something inside my son, something strong, something unshakable. Years passed, and Hamza was no longer that small boy. By the time he turned 12, I could see it in his eyes, a fire. Not anger, but determination. He had seen everything, the stares, the insults, the fear in my silence, and he understood, even without words. One evening, I came home late from work, tired beyond exhaustion, and I saw him waiting outside the door. He ran to me, held my hand, and said something I will never forget. "Mama, one day, I'll make everything better." I smiled, but inside, I wondered, how can a child carry a promise this heavy? But Hamza was not like other children. While others played, he studied. While others laughed, he worked. He grew up faster than life should ever force a child to. Sometimes he would stay hungry, just so I could eat. Sometimes he would hide his needs, just so I wouldn't worry. One day, I gave him a little money and told him, "Buy yourself something nice." But he didn't. A few days later, I found out he had used that money to buy me a pair of shoes, because mine were torn. In that moment, I realized something painful. My son was becoming the man his father never got the chance to be. But life still wasn't done testing us. One afternoon, while I was cleaning a house, the owner came and stood behind me. I felt his presence before I even turned. "Alisa," he said softly, "why do you work so hard? If you were mine, you wouldn't need to struggle like this." My body froze. Then his hand touched my shoulder. Fear rushed through me like ice. I pushed his hand away and said firmly, "Please respect yourself. And me. He smirked. Respect doesn't fill your stomach, he replied. I left that house, shaking. When I reached home, Hamza looked at me, and without asking a single question, he understood. That night, I heard him whisper quietly, "One day, I'll make them regret this." And that was the moment everything changed. Because while the world was trying to break me, it was turning my son into steel. Years passed. Hamza entered high school and stood out in everything he did. His teachers admired him. One of them once told him, "You're not just intelligent, you're special. You can change lives, starting with your mother's." And Hamza believed it. He started tutoring younger kids after school, earning small amounts of money. But he never spent it on himself. Instead, he would quietly place it in my hand and say, "Mama, this is for you." Even at home, he became my support, cooking when I was tired, fixing things, taking care of me in ways no child should have to. But he never complained. By the time he turned 16, something unbelievable happened. He earned a scholarship to study abroad. The day we received the letter, my hands trembled. Tears fell onto the paper. This was it, the beginning of everything we had suffered for. At the airport, as he hugged me one last time, he whispered, "Mama, your struggle ends here. I promise." When he left, I felt empty, but also full of hope. Months passed, and then one day, he called me. "Mama, I got a job. I'll send money home." And he did. For the first time in years, I didn't have to beg. I didn't have to suffer. I didn't have to be afraid. Slowly, our life changed. The empty kitchen filled with food. The broken house turned into a home again. Years later, when Hamza finally returned, he was no longer the little boy I once held in my arms. He was strong, confident, successful. And in his hand was a job offer that could change everything. That same day, something else happened. The same people who once ignored us came back, smiling, praising, pretending. But Hamza didn't look at them. He walked straight to me, hugged me tightly, and whispered, "Mama, we made it." At that moment, I realized the truth. The world tried to break me with pain, poverty, and humiliation, but it failed. Because the love between a mother and her son is stronger than anything. Hamza didn't just give me a better life. He gave me back my dignity. And today, I want to say something to the world. A widow is not weak. She is a survivor. She is a mother, a daughter, a human being who deserves respect, not exploitation. And sometimes, the strongest heroes are not born. They are raised through pain, sacrifice, and love.